The rope felt rough against my palms as I stood on that chair in my cramped apartment, tears streaming down my face at 3 in the morning. Everything had collapsed around me in the span of just 2 weeks. My girlfriend Sarah had left me for my best friend Marcus, taking with her not just my heart, but also the savings we had pooled together for our future home. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound could. Marcus had been my roommate, my confidant, the person I trusted with my darkest secrets and biggest dreams. But that wasn't even the worst part. 3 days after Sarah moved out, I received the call that would shatter what remained of my world completely. My father had suffered a massive heart attack at work. The doctor said if I had gotten there just 30 minutes earlier, I might have been able to say goodbye. Standing in that funeral home, looking at his lifeless body, I realized I had lost the only person who truly believed in me unconditionally. The guilt consumed me like acid. I had been so wrapped up in my own relationship drama that I hadn't called him in over 2 weeks. Within days, the medical bills started pouring in. Apparently, my father had let his insurance lapse to help pay for my college tuition years earlier. $50,000 in debt, unemployed since the company layoffs last month, and completely alone. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in on me. That's when I found myself standing on that chair, convinced that everyone would be better off without me dragging them down. But as I reached for the rope, my elbow knocked over a stack of books my father had given me for my birthday last year. One book fell open to a page that seemed to glow under the dim lamplight. It was my father's old copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. If you like this content, please hit that like button, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe for more life-changing stories. I climbed down from that chair and picked up the book with trembling hands. The highlighted passage seemed to speak directly to my broken soul. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those words hit me like lightning in the darkness. I remembered my father reading this same book during his own darkest period when my mother had died from cancer 10 years earlier. He had underlined dozens of passages, written notes in the margins, and somehow found the strength to raise me alone through high school. I spent the entire night reading, discovering that my father had been fighting his own battles with depression and financial struggles for years. His notes revealed something I never knew. He had considered ending his own life after my mother's death, but chose to live for me. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, another highlighted passage read. I realized my enemies weren't Sarah or Marcus. My real enemies were despair, self-pity, and the voice in my head telling me I wasn't strong enough to rebuild my life. Marcus Aurelius wrote about losing everything, about facing death, about finding meaning in the midst of chaos and suffering. This Roman emperor had faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and personal losses, yet he chose to focus on what remained within his control. I realized that Sarah and Marcus had actually done me a favor by showing their true characters before I wasted more years on them. The debt was overwhelming, but it wasn't insurmountable. My father had raised me to be resourceful, hardworking, and resilient. I started applying for jobs that same morning, swallowing my pride and taking a position at a local warehouse for minimum wage. Every morning, I read one passage from that book before work. Every evening, I studied online courses to improve my skills. Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild not just my finances, but my entire sense of self-worth and purpose in life. Within 18 months, I had paid off half the debt, earned 3 professional certifications, and landed a job that paid double my previous salary. That rope still hangs in my closet as a reminder that the darkest moments often precede our greatest transformations and victories. But the real test of my transformation came exactly 2 years later, when I received an unexpected phone call that would challenge everything I had learned. It was Sarah. Her voice was shaky, desperate, nothing like the confident woman who had walked out of my life with my best friend and my savings. "David, I know I have no right to call you, but I need your help. Marcus left me, and I'm in serious trouble." The irony wasn't lost on me. She explained through tears that Marcus had been gambling away their money for months, leaving her with crushing debt and nowhere to turn. The old me would have either hung up immediately or rushed to save her. But Marcus Aurelius had taught me about the power of pause and reflection. We are disturbed not by things, but by the views which we take of things. I remembered this passage as I listened to her pleas for financial help. Sarah offered to meet me at our old favorite coffee shop, the same place where she had told me she was leaving me for Marcus. When I arrived, I barely recognized her. The vibrant, confident woman I once loved looked broken, defeated, aged beyond her years. "You look incredible, David. Success suits you," she said, her eyes filled with regret and something that looked like genuine remorse. She told me how Marcus had become controlling, manipulative, eventually showing his true colors once the initial excitement of their affair wore off. "He wasn't the person I thought he was. He used me, just like he used our friendship, to get close to me in the first place." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Marcus hadn't just stolen my girlfriend. He had orchestrated the entire betrayal from the beginning. Sarah explained that Marcus had been planning to leave me behind for months, poisoning her mind against me with lies and manipulation. "He told me you were holding me back, that you'd never amount to anything. I was so stupid to believe him." Her voice cracked with emotion. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to say, "I told you so," but Marcus Aurelius had taught me that revenge only poisons the soul. "How much do you need?" I asked quietly. The question surprised both of us. She had expected anger, not compassion. $15,000, she whispered, unable to meet my eyes. It was exactly half of what she had taken from our joint savings account. I could afford it now. My new position, combined with careful budgeting and side projects, had rebuilt my financial stability completely. But this wasn't about the money. This was about who I had become versus who I used to be and what my father would have wanted me to do. "I'll help you," I said finally, "but not because I owe you anything and not because I want you back in my life." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of relief and gratitude. "David, I don't know how to thank you. This means everything to me." "Don't thank me. Thank Marcus Aurelius. He taught me that helping others is how we help ourselves become better people." I wrote her a check right there in the coffee shop, but I also wrote something else on a piece of paper. This is the quote that saved my life. Maybe it can help you rebuild yours too. I slid the paper across the table. As I stood to leave, Sarah grabbed my hand. "I'm sorry, David, for everything. You deserved so much better than what I did to you." "We all make mistakes, Sarah. The question is what we choose to learn from them." I gently pulled my hand away. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt something I never expected to feel about Sarah and Marcus: genuine forgiveness and pity. They had destroyed their own lives with greed, betrayal, and poor choices, while their actions had ultimately made me stronger and wiser. Months later, I received a handwritten letter from Sarah. She had used the money to get back on her feet and started therapy. But more importantly, she had bought her own copy of Meditations and was learning the same lessons that had transformed my darkest moment into my greatest strength. That letter from Sarah should have been the end of our story, but life had other plans. 3 years after that coffee shop meeting, I was promoted to regional director at my company. My success had attracted attention from headhunters, investors, and apparently people from my past who suddenly wanted to reconnect with the new and improved David. But the call that shattered my newfound peace came on a rainy Thursday evening as I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office. "David, this is Detective Morrison from the Metropolitan Police. We need to speak with you about Marcus Chen. Can you come down to the station?" My blood ran cold. Marcus, the man who had destroyed my life and then disappeared with Sarah, was apparently in serious trouble with the law. At the police station, Detective Morrison explained that Marcus had been running an elaborate investment fraud scheme, targeting vulnerable people with promises of guaranteed returns. He's stolen over $2 million from 43 victims, many of them elderly retirees who trusted him with their life savings, the detective said grimly. The detective slid a folder across the table. "Your name came up in our investigation. We found records showing he used your identity and reputation to gain credibility with some victims." My hands trembled as I opened the file. There were forged documents with my signature, fake business cards claiming I was Marcus's business partner, even photos of us from years ago. He told investors that David Chen, successful regional director, had personally vouched for his investment strategy. Some people gave him everything they had because of your supposed endorsement. The room spun around me. Not only had Marcus betrayed our friendship and stolen my girlfriend, but he had used my hard-earned reputation to destroy innocent lives. "We need your help to build our case against him. Will you testify about your relationship with Marcus and confirm that you never authorized these endorsements?" Of course I agreed to help, but the detective had more devastating news. "There's something else, David. Sarah Williams was arrested yesterday as his accomplice. The woman I had helped just 3 years ago, who had written me that grateful letter about finding strength through philosophy, had returned to Marcus and joined his criminal enterprise. She was the one who provided him with personal details about the victims, helping him craft convincing stories that would make them trust him completely. I felt sick to my stomach. The $15,000 I had given her out of compassion had likely been used as seed money for this elaborate fraud scheme. That night, I sat in my apartment with my father's copy of Meditations, searching for wisdom to process this unimaginable betrayal of trust and decency. How much trouble there is in getting to know oneself, not just the contents of one's consciousness, but one's unconscious, one's repressions, one's lies to oneself. I realized that Marcus had never been my friend at all. Every shared moment, every confidence, every laugh had been part of a long con I was too naive to see. The trial began 6 months later. I testified about our friendship, about how Marcus had systematically destroyed my life while pretending to care about me. When I looked at Marcus in that courtroom, I saw not the charismatic friend I once knew, but a hollow shell of a man who had chosen greed over humanity. Sarah took the stand next, her voice barely above a whisper, as she described how Marcus had manipulated her back into his web of lies and criminal activity. He told me David had become arrogant and successful, that he deserved to have his reputation used against him. I was so angry and hurt that I believed him. She explained how Marcus had convinced her that defrauding wealthy investors was somehow justified, that they were just redistributing money from the rich to themselves. But the most chilling moment came when the prosecutor asked Marcus if he felt any remorse for destroying the lives of 43 innocent people. Marcus looked directly at me, then at the victims in the gallery, and said with cold indifference, "Everyone's responsible for their own financial decisions. I just gave them what they wanted to hear." The judge sentenced Marcus to 25 years in federal prison. Sarah received 8 years for her role as an accomplice in the scheme. After the trial, several victims approached me to thank me for testifying. One elderly woman grabbed my hand with tears in her eyes. "You helped us get justice, son. That monster used your good name to steal my husband's pension, but you made it right." Her words broke my heart and healed it simultaneously. Walking out of that courthouse, I realized that Marcus had unknowingly given me the greatest gift of all: absolute proof that I had chosen the right path when I climbed down from that chair years ago. 6 months after the trial ended, I thought I had finally closed the chapter on Marcus and Sarah forever. But life has a way of testing your resolve when you least expect it. I was reviewing applications for our company's new scholarship fund when my assistant knocked on my door with an expression I had never seen before. "David, this came by special delivery. The courier said it was urgent and could only be delivered to you personally." Her voice carried an undertone of worry. Inside was a handwritten letter from Marcus, postmarked from federal prison. My hands actually shook as I recognized his familiar handwriting after all these years. "David, I know you probably never want to hear from me again, but I'm writing because innocent people are going to die if you don't help me." He claimed that his investment fraud was just the tip of the iceberg, that he had been forced to work for a much larger criminal organization. According to Marcus, this organization was planning something called Operation Silver Harvest, targeting nursing homes and assisted living facilities across 5 states. They're going to steal the identities of thousands of elderly residents and drain their accounts simultaneously. The financial shock could literally kill some of these people. Marcus claimed he had refused to participate in this larger scheme, which was why he had been arrested. The fraud case was meant to silence him permanently. I have evidence hidden in a safety deposit box. The key is taped under the drawer of my old desk at the apartment Sarah and I shared.